What you see here is a personal Slack channel on my own personal Slack account. In particular, I'm talking to the Rasa personal service that I have added. Now, what you're looking at is just the Hello World bot, but what I would like to explain is how I connected my Slack app over here with my Rasa X VM. So let's talk about how we can configure this connection such that you can have conversations via Slack that will end up in Rasa X. One thing to note is that all the steps that I'll be taking in this video can also be found on our documentation page. I will make sure that there's a link in the show notes to this page, so you can also follow the steps from here. What you see now is a Jupyter lab that is running on the VM, and I have opened up a credentials.yaml file. This file needs to be in the root of your project. Typically, that's in the /etc/rasa folder. And in order to connect to Slack, there are three things that we have to configure. First, you'll need to have an ID for the Slack channel. You will also need to have a token, and you will have to fetch a signing secret. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up my Slack settings, and I will show you how you can get this information. Now, to find information about custom Slack apps, what you will need to do is you will need to go to api.slack.com/apps. And when you pass this into the browser, you should see a screen that looks like this. In my case, you can see that I already have an app listed here. But what I'm going to do now is just click this Create New App button and walk through all the steps that you need to take when configuring a new Slack app. So the first thing that I'll do is I will call this the Rasa Demo Super Service, and I will add that to my personal Slack account. From here, there are lots of settings that we could look at, but the first thing to configure is here in the OAuth and Permissions section. The first thing we should do is go down to Scopes here, and here we can make sure that the assistant that we make has the right capabilities with regards to sending messages. I just added a few. The ones that you have to add are the app mentions read, channels history, chat write, groups history, IM history, mpim history, and the reactions read scope. And with these scopes set, we can now scroll back up here and install this app onto our workspace. I will hit allow, and this will give me my OAuth token. Now note that this is something that in general you want to keep a secret, but since I'm only showing this for demo purposes and I'll be throwing away this instance after making this video, I'm just going to go and copy this token and paste it in here. The way that you recognize you've copied the right token is that this token should always start with XOXB. With the Slack token out of the way, let's get our signing secret. To find that, we have to go to this Basic Information tab. We should scroll down, and here we can find our signing secret. And just for demo purposes, I'm hitting Show here, going back to my credentials, and I'm copying the setting in. Now, we're nearly done with our credentials.yaml file. The one thing we need now is this Slack channel ID. To find that, what we gotta do is we gotta go to our Rasa Demo Super Service, right-click, and hit Copy Link. If we paste that in here, we get this URL, but we also get this channel ID. This last part is the part that we are interested in, so I'm going to copy and paste this now as well. And there we have it. We have our credentials.yaml file. So right now, if we were to apply this config file, we would have everything we need to send messages to Slack, but we also want to start receiving them. So what we're going to do is we're first going to apply these credentials locally, and once these credentials have been applied, we can make our final configuration changes to Slack here such that we can both send and receive messages. To now apply these changes, I am going to run the docker restart command in my terminal here. Just for good measure, I'm in the same root folder as before, and I'm going to run docker compose restart. When docker compose restarts, it will automatically pick up any new settings files as well. This might take a small while, but after a while it should be done, which means that these credentials are now configured. To get the final settings ready for Slack to receive messages, we have to set some final configurations here in the Event Subscriptions tab in the website we saw earlier. The first thing we got to do is enable events by toggling this button. And then we have to submit our request URL. After we submit the URL, it will automatically get checked and verified. And the main thing that's important is that we have our Rasa X IP address over here, followed by webhooks slash webhook. With this done, we are almost there. We just have to do this one final thing, and that is that we have to go down, open up this subscribe to bot events, and add some event settings here. The final subscriptions you really want are the message channels, message groups, message IM, and message MPIM. Now you can click this Save Changes button. And that also means that now we should be able to talk to our assistant from Slack. So I've got my Rasa demo super service that I've just configured, and let's try talking to it. I just said hi, and I get a reply back from Rasa X that's saying, hey, how are you? And I could say something like, this is a demo, and this utterance should appear in Rasa X. Now, we can see that we're triggering the cheer up intent from the Hello World assistant here, which is something that we will improve later. But what we can now quickly do is confirm whether or not this message does appear in Rasa X. And lo and behold, if I go to my NLU inbox, I see this is a demo and this utterance should appear in Rasa X. And that means that on one end, we have our Slack user interface, which is something that can be shared with my colleagues, and that is now interacting and interfacing with Rasa X. And that's great, because that means that if I build something for my colleagues, I can apply my own labeling and do conversation-driven development.